Brownie.
Hello, and welcome to Three Amigos Ink and Splatter Open Mic Poetry Night. I'm your host, Marie Moldovan, with my co-host, Alicia Hodge. Tonight we have the guest, Charles Edward York, and we will be reading poetry by a few different featured poets from our Three Amigos group this week. Stuart Marshall, Taylor Newman, Michael Falls, Michael Taylor, Tom Cleary, Stuart Dann, Sarah Wheatley, Philip Winchester, Somm Mazumder, Romy Sastra, Richard Homer. All of those wonderful poets, their poetry will be read this evening by myself and my co-host Alicia. And like I said, we have one featured speaker on tonight, Charles Edward York. Alicia, I'll let you introduce Charles.
All right. Charles Edward York is an author and poet activist living in Ontario, Oregon. He's written over 1,100 poems and published 14 books of poetry. Born in Vietnam and raised a citizen in Dallas, Texas, he writes poems that include the subjects of love and relationships, nature, social justice, including police violence against African Americans and minorities, astronomy, and others. Hi, Charles. How are you doing today?
Is often caused by the internet. No, don't do.
Cutting out a little bit. You there?
Oh, no.
Looks like we may still be having some technical difficulties going on. Are you there, Marie?
Sounds like we're having quite a few technical difficulties. So what we'll probably do is we'll move on to reading the poetry from the featured poets from this week. The lucky individuals who were placed up and on our honor roll as being amazing poets. I mean, we have such an amazing group of poets, and I'm really proud to have so many very emotive writers, very wide range of different perspectives to read. And we have an amazing group of artists. So we'll probably just, go and read the featured poets and let Charles sort out the technical difficulties. Seems to be a couple of days we've been having technical difficulties. I had issues on my end because we had quite a bit of snow. And Stuart, he had some snow. Hey, Charles.
Sorry, I think my connection went.
Yeah, it seems that your connection is pretty rough right now. Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do is... No, can't hear you. We're probably going to move on and read the other poets and maybe give you some time to sort out your connection. Okay. So I'm just going to load up the site. Of course. Alicia, I will load up the screen and we'll start with how they are listed on the screen on the website with Richard Horner.
Sounds good.
Okay. And I haven't quite got this figured out yet, so you might have to squint a bit. Okay. I That's probably the best I can get it. If I do that, and I will let you read first. The first poet up is Richard Horner, and I chose his rewrite of Narcissistic Love.
All right. And it says here, decided to rewrite Narcissistic Love. It's called Real Love. It's funny the difference a few word choices can make. All right. In love with the idea of us, but in reality, it'll never be enough, because how can I trust I'll not give in to lust, as I deserve every rush in the first feelings of a crush? My eyes dilate, big blue and dark, pulse goes up, I can smell her heart. It's like blood to a shark, a familiar heat goes to my crotch, electricity sparks and excitement in my stomach. How could I deny myself this, deny anyone else all this? Look at me, I'm the business. It's only fair that I share this, but just temporarily, though, it's only for show. Gonna suck you in and control everything, so complete devotion is what I'm expecting. Accepting nothing less than respect and dependence, I'm intending to take all that you are and leave a scar on your heart. I only have enough love for one, so calm down, slow down as I drown in this admiration. I'm at ease and full of glee, collecting more of her, and she's my detainee. I'm the one in control. She can plead, I'll never set her free. She can't flee, I've brought her to her knees. She's lost, can't understand or see that honestly, the only love I truly have is all for myself. It's all about me. That was Narcissistic Love. And then this is the rewrite, Real Love. In love with the idea of us, actually can't get enough, because I trust we'll revel in lust, as we deserve every rush in these first feelings of our crush. Eyes dilate, big blue and dark, pulse goes up, we can smell each other's hearts, it's like blood to sharks, a familiar heat moves between us, electricity sparks and excitement in our stomachs. How could we deny ourselves this, deny a love like this? Look and see, we are the business, it's only fair that we share this, and just take it slow, watch this love grow, gonna breathe this in and become each other's everything, so complete devotion is what's exciting, accepting nothing less than respect and caring. We're intending to love all that we are, and hope it leaves a scar on both our hearts. Only have enough love for one another, so calm down, slow down, and drown in each other. We're at ease and full of glee, giving our hearts is so easy. No one's in control, she loves me, she gets me. I can see, one day I'll take the knee, I'm lost in her. Now I understand and see that honestly the only love I truly have is all for her. It's all about she.
That was an amazingly beautiful piece. I like the word amazingly.
Yes.
Yes. So I'll pop Charles's bio back up on the screen, and I'll throw him back on in the room and see if we have any progress. How are you doing, Charles? Still frozen? Okay. Seems like Charles is still frozen. Yeah. We'll move on to the next poet. Okay. Nope. It looks like he popped in again. Hello, Charles. Do you have a better connection?
Yeah. But funny is, I've got 4 bars on my phone, and I'm not that far away from my router.
I
Right.
can hear you a bit better now.
Yeah, this uses a lot of I mean, if you switch from one screen to the next, unless you're like basically hooked straight to the box, you're using Wi-Fi, you might kick out if you go to a different screen. Like if you're loading up Facebook to read something off of there or whatever, it'll kick you off. It takes a lot of bandwidth. So I can hear you clearly.
Oh, I see.
Do you want to give it a try? Okay. So we'll let you introduce yourself again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, cool. Well, this is Charles Edward York, author and poet activist. I've been writing for quite a long time now. I've published 15 books of poetry in the last 9 years, and I've written over 1,200 poems. Most of my subjects usually range from love poems to poems of social justice, things that have to do with a political, social nature, things about depression, things about astronomy, and other subjects that kind of cross my mind from time to time. So anyways, how's that sound? All right. Not sure how many poems I'm going to get through, but I think I'm going to just start off with 3. And I'm going to start off with one that I really recently wrote. And this poem is about a sensation that we're all familiar with during the winter months. This is called cold. And it goes like this. Cold is the sad distance between stars. The lonely feeling from what you care for. Cold is the temperature of what is missing, the lack of warm affection by a source of life. Cold falls upon you when you are far away. The bitter reality of your absence from me is the sensation of what my body can't stand and unsatisfied needs for you. The opposite of a fire that ignites my joy and sensation that cuts my skin beneath my clothes and beneath my flesh, torturing break into pieces. Cold is the thief that robs my hands and feet. The plagiarism of favorable seasons turns my misery. Prejudice of angry, insecure mob. Reject, riot, rebel against humanity, and threaten to destroy.
Hi, Charles. Sounds like you're breaking up again. So I'll just pop you out of the room back into the back room backstage, and we'll move on to reading the next featured poet. Okay. Sorry about that. Seems we're having a few technical difficulties. Stuart Dann says, "Hello, my lovelies. 2 kisses and a pair of winks to me and you, Alicia."
Thank you, Stuart.
That's cute. So
to get through.
The next featured poet that we're going to read is Romy Sastra. Romy is a moderator of the group. He's from Indonesia. I recently added him as a moderator of the group. He's got a lively personality. He's a really cool individual. And I quite enjoy his personality. I enjoy his writing, and I'm really happy to have him join us at the 3 Amigos and help us out. The poem is Untitled, and it reads like this. When you tell the truth, when you will find 2 different reactions. The wise will contemplate, stupid will be offended. It's hard to convince a fly that flowers are much more beautiful than trash. Of course. Okay. And I will go grab the next poet, Alicia, and I will have you read that one.
Okay.
Okay. Tabernacle. Okay.
All right. Step. We have Somm Mazumder. I hope I'm saying that right. Apologize if not. And this is called Far and Near, the beautiful art piece there. It's called Isolation. We do not have anything to say to each other. All our conversations drifted very far. Odor of the death of our relation are thick in the air. We have nothing left for each other. Still few words appear like the bubbles on calm river water, but doesn't pronounce and fast disappear. They are probably our lost moments, once our only constant. Entering deep inside a tunnel where the sound reverberates as a moving coil making intense effort to escape the clutches of its own severity. We are wreathing in our own orbit, helplessly trying to liberate. Love my dark sequin sky, it hurts. I vent out a sigh. Everything seems so impossible and feasible during night. I keep my eyes open and try to dream a dream. That was a beautiful poem to read. And
Do we want to try Charles again?
is he here?
Yes, he is. Hello, Charles.
Yeah, I'm here. Keep
Pardon
going.
me?
Yeah,
Oh.
I can hear you. Yeah,
We can hear
Okay.
you. Good time to try again, maybe.
No, that's okay. You guys keep going. I'm a little wary of my connection right now. I just want to see how long it lasts.
Okay, sounds good. Our next featured poet is Philip Winchester. Can you see that good? Okay. Okay, so the piece is titled Hope. Hope is taking a positive future with goodwill prevail. Reverence. Reveal for sacred reverence, dealing with others. You've toleration. A poet's homage makes a difference. Forgive my use of poetic license, a balanced approach. You've moderation. A reveal for sacred reverence. Most virtues I live by for preference. Diverse cultures display admiration. A poet's homage makes a difference. Duties I take on a penance. I am solid in this declaration. A reveal for sacred reverence. It's an asset to exercise patience, an essential to life preservation. A poet's homage makes a difference, and this virtue has major relevance. Ingredients to world's moderation. A reveal for a sacred reverence. A poet's homage makes a difference. That's a pretty good piece. Okay. What did you think of that one, Alicia?
Yeah, that was an excellent piece.
I'm a little out of breath. Actually had to run upstairs and back just before that. So I'm like, oh, yeah, you're out of shape when you can't breathe. You're nearly having an asthma attack right here. No, I'm just kidding. But so I kind of barely made it through that. I'm really sorry for the
Take a moment, catch your breath.
I was like, can't even see the screen. Oh my gosh. Had to run so fast up the stairs because my daughter's like, me now. Oh my God, I'm going to call you 20,000 times because I'm just upstairs and I can't come downstairs. And oh no, it's a big deal. Anyways, so the next poem is by Sarah Wheatley and it's called Tapestry of the Day. And Alicia, I'll let you read that one.
All right. Tapestry of Day. As sunlight grows above the hill, traces the edge to reddish tint. A smile upside down, yet still, I feel warm hue of morn, distinct. The red it turns to pink, it clothes. The sky was bare, a patchy dark, transforms to multicolored wear, a tapestry of finest art. The glow extend beyond its breadth. It reaches to a moment's edge. The loom is stretched, cloth reaches end, forms sky, bright yellow, fully fledged. Meanwhile I climb to winter clothes and dress myself in floral grace. I know that all is beautiful, from start to end, down to the creases, line of my face. Time has changed my body, but it's okay. I am just a sunrise above the clay. I am and always will be beautiful in every way, and I'll wake each day and I'll display it. Each day is new, no time is ancient. And that was very beautiful as well. I love Sarah Wheatley's work, and she's an excellent artist as well.
She is definitely an amazing lyricist, and I enjoyed the theme on that one. And of course, Your Beautiful Everyone is. I mean, just embrace yourself as you naturally are. We have a tendency to try to conform to what we think everybody else wants, and that's when everything gets ugly and we become depressed and our life really sucks because, I mean, we're on our own journey. We're born here to follow our life path, and we kind of get lost in the attempting to be what we think everybody else wants, living the life, our life for other people. And we're not meant to live like that. That's why we have so many depressed people, so many unhappy people, you know, trying to make everyone happy, but you end up unhappy yourself, and 40 years old or whatever, completely revamping your entire life because you've spent the first half of your life doing everything for everyone else and never even considering you. Charles, would you like to give it another try?
Sure. Let's see. I'll try this one. I have actually not. No, on second thought, I'm not going to try that one. Hold on. I had another poem in mind. Oh, what the hell? I'll just go for this one. Okay, this is called Drop in Your Ocean. An apple of your eye falls from a barren tree. Strange fruit, who once sweetened lips, wonders how did it get here, while you morphed into a diurnal flyaway, and I yesterday's passion. A drop in your ocean cries 1,000 tears, swept away in stormy waves of pain. Despair of faulty currents leaves a message in a bottle. The ink of an anguished scribe writes of missing kisses. So, where did you lose that precious jewel I gave you from my treasure chest? The one with your name on it. Have I lost so much value that you have left it alone without your alluring luster? And that's it.
So tell us a little bit about that piece.
I wrote it in a state where I was reflecting on what it was like to be ignored, specifically from my wife, and it was sort of like a rhetorical question that I was asking, you know, about whether I still mattered. And I think most lovers can relate to that from time to time. We sometimes feel like we're not the apple of the other person's eye for whatever reason, for however long a time. And so the title was suggesting something of a metaphor about, you know, whether I was still the big island focus or whether I was just a drop getting lost in that other person's perspective, you know, just sort of missing in action. That's kind of what I was thinking about.
So if you were to give someone advice during that experience, like when you were feeling at that moment in time, specifically relating to your relationship, what would you say to them if they were going through that and feeling that at that moment?
Well, coming fresh from a therapist visit that I had earlier today, it was suggested to me that offering some invitation to talk and try and give some positive affirmation to that other person was one way of letting them know that, you know, in no way was the conversation that we are about to have going to be confrontational. It was more like an invitation to discuss feelings. And part of that was learning to own your feelings, learning to make positive statements about, what the other person does well, and then learning to own your feelings about things that you feel uncomfortable about, and letting them know that you uh, haven't felt a sense of satisfaction from being part of the relationship. Anytime you feel like you're an option to somebody, or secondary, or even further down the list,
Would
it's a
you
very
agree that Would you agree that sometimes the feelings that we get that we are an option piece, we're like a menu option at that moment in time, or something that stems from us and what we're going through at that moment rather than how they really are feeling? And that maybe approaching the subject and having the conversation, you'll be able to get into what they're going through in their state of mind if they're willing to communicate with you. And would you agree that communication sometimes is the best approach to go with the relationship, especially expressing your feelings and being open with that? And is it possible that the feelings of being the option were based on what you were going through with your own state of mind?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I happen to think that it just depends. I mean, not trying to give away too much about the ups and downs of my marriage, but
Everyone
I
has
think,
ups and downs.
yeah,
It's life.
but I have kind of found myself in the opposite dynamic of what most men generally uh feel in a love relationship. I think one of the reasons why I tend to associate better with women, even on a friendship level, is because um, I kind of see it from their perspective a lot more than I see it from the guy's perspective. I'll give you an example just real quick. When women don't feel validated, for instance, uh, they're likely to express their feelings to a guy or to their partner, and the guy's reaction a lot of times isn't always what they would like for it to be. In other words, instead of being receptive, a guy might get defensive, or he might say, well, I think you're overthinking this, or doing something to kind of not say that they might have something to do with it. And I think a lot of times women feel frustrated, and they'll tell their partner, you just don't understand what I'm trying to say. Or my favorite one is the guy says, well, I think you need to take up a hobby or something and occupy your time with. He goes into problem solution mode, and
Get busy with
that
it. But isn't that because the divine masculine in our generation and many generations have been conditioned to do that? It's like, hey, men cannot cry, men cannot have feelings. You've got to occupy and busy your mind. You cannot feel what you feel. It's not allowed, right? So, I mean, it's pretty hard to, based on the conditioning, for them to be receptive. And I think the approach that we're trying to take is to be more open with your feelings. So it's like a whole
yeah,
complete reprogramming phase that needs to come into place. And it is frustrating, yes, because you know but I'm
yes,
from the
and
perspective where I
I
wasn't
get that.
allowed to. Emotions were bad, no matter girl, boy, whatever. It's like,
Uh-huh.
no, you cannot. So you got to suck it up and keep going. So I think I take it from the male's perspective a lot of time. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, it's a tough call there, because you would want to get frustrated, you would want to get angry, and you'd be like, why don't you get it? I don't understand. And there's so much conflict in a relationship because of things like that. Um,
Yeah, I think there's a fine line between the opportunity to express versus the permission to um to say it in a way that might come across as being uncomfortable. I
So
think,
would you
you know,
would you say
that
that,
happens a lot too.
sorry, would you say that you were
You
given permission to express growing up, or at some point in time for you to be able to see from the
oh,
perspective you see?
hell no.
No?
Hell no. My dad was the traditional red-blooded masculine American guy, and it didn't help that he was an alcoholic too and a racist. But he was of the mind that, you know, expressing your feelings, particularly feelings of vulnerability, like crying, for instance, those were expressions of weakness, not expressions of validity. You know, and I told someone recently, my neighbor, in fact, her name is Chelly, which is similar to my wife's name, but just pronounced differently. But I told Chelly, I said, you know, for me, crying so much a release as it is an expression of my strong person to comfortably express feelings of vulnerability and sensitivity. Um, I like to think that instead of saying, you know, I'm showing you my vulnerability, I tell people I'm showing you my feelings because I'm open. You know, I'm unlike my dad, who was closed off, who told me to, you know, basically pull yourself up by your bootstraps and shut up, you know, stop crying and all this stuff. I mean, he told me that numbers of times, and I I grew up the opposite. In fact, one of the things that I think kind of hammers away at my depression sometimes is there's this tape loop, you know, subliminal tape loop that comes back. It's my dad's voice saying, you know, you're being not you're not showing that you should be stronger instead of weaker in this situation. And you know, I I I play against that as a poet because I I I think one of the things that comes across to my listeners is the fact that I have the courage to bear it, you know, to put my feelings out there, not so much on a sleeve, but out there so that people can relate to. And you
Yeah,
know, that
because
poem is
when you express it and you write it, you're feeling it.
mhm.
You're allowing it to come forward. You're allowing it to flow. You're feeling it. You're, you know, and that's strength. I know that we have been conditioned to think that sucking
Yeah,
it up, shutting up, and like just getting yourself busy and moving along is strength. But I mean, it's taking it from me for 20 years of sucking it up and stuffing it down. It is not.
mm,
No, that destroys you from the inside. It takes an incredible amount of strength to be able to feel it, to express it, and to to um, to move along by allowing yourself to feel the emotion and allowing yourself
right,
to grow from it. So
right.
it's not
That's
weakness,
the reason
it's
why my new
strength.
book, uh, titled "Unguarded: Verses from the Edge," because I told my other therapist that I get my medicine from, I wanted to write a book of poems that dealt with the most sensitive aspects of a person's life, particularly somebody who faced the ultimate question of, do I live or do I die? And was not crazy, but sort of at that precipice, at the edge of deciding for themselves, you know. And I had that moment. And the title poem, Unguarded, is one of those that talks about um, what it's like to face the question of suicide, and then not just realizing that the answer was the death, but that one's own, you have to find your own critical definition of, is life important to you? What is most important to you? And for me, I reiterated it with my dad was writing. In fact, I'm going to go and we kind of
sounds like you're breaking up again. You're breaking up again.
I'll go ahead and you tell me what you
okay.
Before I try to read again.
I think you're breaking up for a minute. So what I will do is, actually, I want to hear that poem Unguarded. So if you can plop it into the Three Amigos group, in case you're not able to, you're still breaking up. If you plop it into their Amigos group and you're still breaking up, I will read it for you. But what I will do is I'll move on to the next poet.
Okay.
While you find that, so that it gives you time to like get your connection back together. Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So the next poem that we're going to read is by Stuart Dann, and it's called Risen Hummingbird. This is part 3 of his Hummingbird collection, and I'm going to tell you that I believe it's about me. I'm just going to say that.
It is.
Risen Hummingbird.
And it's beautiful.
Aw. My little hummingbird, long ago you had spread your wings, often failing to fly each time you tried, unknowingly that you were always learning, never giving up every time you cried, continuing with so much perseverance until that miracle finally came. And with all of your convictions soaring so high to modest to proclaim, each season was past gaining knowledge, whilst on the way collecting memories, some that are now locked away, unable to open yet with rusted keys. As there came a storm so ferocious, sadly, one of which you could not avoid, that took all you knew as reality, your world around you then destroyed. How frail it must have left you, so broken in a new wilderness, now lost, having a restart again from the beginning to rebuild also from others, regardless of the cost. Amazingly, your capacity to readapt, the versatile characteristic my little hummingbird has shown. Though I know this particular little hummingbird will look back at her memories, even without them, she will never be alone. And, Stuart hit the nail on the head with that one. And I'm going to say that I am glad to have, even though I've experienced all I have experienced, and some of it extremely tragic and has left me in a very interesting place with my mind and my soul and my feelings and, my life experiences, I would do it again. I would experience every single tragedy and every single nightmare just to be able to be with the people that I was with, the time that I had with them. It's kind of, some people would say they would, do something different, but I met so many wonderful people and I met the love of my life. Well, someone who I truly cared for and would do anything for because of the path that my life took. And I would not trade that for anything. My children, I would not trade any of the experiences that I had. I would not trade them because I would want to have my children. I would want to see my grandchildren. I want to be with the people that I was with, and I would do it all again. So that was a very beautiful piece. Thank you, Stuart. We'll add Charles back to the stream. There we go. So how are you? How's the connection now?
It sounds pretty good because I'm actually sitting right in front of the
yeah, you look like you shifted on us. So we'll give it a try. And
okay. All right. Well, here's the poem Unguarded. I should just practice by saying that before reading this poem, if anybody ever contemplates taking your own life, you should definitely consider calling, or you should call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. There is a 1-800 number. I don't have it in front of me, but I've been told that that's a good thing to do and get in the practice of doing, particularly reading a piece like this, because it could actually trigger things in people. So with all that aside, this is Unguarded. Unguarded, my wrists lay bare. I stared at the scissors that would write my last message. A crimson note. The last moments of a life, brutally made, insignificant, inadequate, and intolerable, to that tyrannical bitch who made my value equal to a piece of shit. The head demon reigned with fire, breathing insults, patronizing words, sizing me up inside cruel dimensions. Do you still want to work here? The indictment that felt sharp as a knife, cutting me in half. My sensitivity was a window of vulnerability. She hurled grenades, fragmenting my self-esteem into a million little pieces. I took the plastic handles of scissors, cold and unfeeling, the final sensations I would ever feel. And then I heard it, deep down, or was it far away, yet close as my breath? It was gentle and soothing. Remember your mission to write. I had no face, but I recognize. It had no face, but I recognized the sweet, silent purpose I was given to live by. It had chosen me, and I had to respond by living. It wasn't long before I left the table, the site of my personal guillotine. As if by fate, a fellow writer, told me to keep on writing, that my voice was needed. The world was crying out for me to do something. I was picked by the universe to do. God personalized in a different message. I should say God personalized in a different message. I took that message in hand, silenced the demon with the stroke of my pen. And that's it. Can you guys still hear me? Oh no, I think I lost everybody. Oh no.
Hello?
Hello.
Yep, no, you did well. Everything, your connection was perfect.
Oh, okay. I thought I'd lost something because all of a sudden you two guys disappeared, and I was just trying to read to the end, and then before I knew it, I didn't see anybody.
That's all right. I took a
that was scary. Oh my goodness. I was a little freaked out by that because I for a minute there, I felt like William Shatner staring out the window in the Twilight Zone on the airplane.
It's kind of like one of those moments where you're like, well, we'll just act like everything is good and hope for the best, right?
Oh, oh. Well, thank you for coming back, because I was really starting to freak out there for a second. I thought
we've left you alone. Yes, we were abducted by aliens. Me and Alicia were abducted and taken away, and you were left alone, the only human left on Earth.
Yes, like the last man.
Okay, so while you were reading, I went and gathered the National Suicide Line for both Canada and the United States.
Okay.
So if you need someone to talk to, don't hesitate to call. And in Canada, you can call 1-833-456-4566. That's 1-833-456-4566. Now, the United States Suicide Prevention Awareness and Support Line is easier to remember. It's 1-800-SUICIDE or 1-800-784, or sorry, 1-800-273-TALK. So it's, I guess you got a couple of options there. It's 1-800-SUICIDE, which is 1-800-784-2433. That's 1-800-784-2433. Or 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255.
I just
or,
that to my. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you want to give one more poem a try before we move on?
Yeah, there's one I always try. I envisioned reading right after that poem because it's like a really good follow up to that, and I think it's this one that I wrote. Hold on. Here we go. This is called. Oh, a little history about this one. Just 10 seconds. This poem was plagiarized by a thief in India.
Name her.
Huh?
Name her.
It's Bajul Patel Ranson or Ransoon or something like that. I can't remember the last name and how it's pronounced, but yeah, Bajul is the person's name. According to the profile, it's a female, and she took the image that I had put with the poem, which was a rose, and the poem, put it on her page, and not only that, she put it in her book that she published and has been selling on Amazon.
That's ballsy. Wow.
That is like, okay, and just to wrap up the final 10 seconds of that, what I found out from a good friend of mine now, his name is Kalpesh Desai, Desai, and Kapesh told me that this person tried to reach out to me and apologize, but I told him, I said, no dice. I'm not falling for your, I'm the victim story. I'm probably going to end up pursuing a lawsuit against you for what you've done. And so he told me, he said, the silver lining that can come out of this is that person thought you were good enough to plagiarize.
Well,
and I thought
that's
about that, and I
positive
said,
but I mean, hello, thanks. That's like a stab in the jugular, like, in an artery. It's like,
yeah,
no, that's not cool. I mean, if you're good enough, like, be inspired by the poet, right? It's like if they write something and it inspires something else from you, like something else. I mean, it's a compliment when you take somebody's work and you are inspired enough to create something that is your own. But to copy it word for word, like, come on.
Yep, that happened word for word, and it was. I at first I was dumbstruck, then I was angry, and then I decided to take action. And ever since, I have actually grown my little collection of fellow colleagues, poets and writers on Instagram. And I've actually been listening to a lot more lives on there and trying to do some more too as I take my cat here, one of them. There we go. Okay, so with that, I'm going to read Only Tomorrow Knows. Staring at the sea of unknown, I wade into the waves, uncharted waters, offering silent invitation, a horizon so wide the sun shines endlessly, giving me a view no one gone before ever knew. This is the untold story of yore, unwritten verses, the dead poets long gone never wrote down, old timers whose face lies silently underneath, cold termination, forever hidden to dreams. Blades I once saw solution, hurt, pain, and suffering, with permanent answers, lock themselves away. Hope of invisible help among angels of daring, meet me now in the open, unguarded realms. A newfound purpose awaits inside the echoes, filtering inside me as a personal calling. Unconditional love finds me, an offer beyond refusal shatters my shackles, breaking the self destruct cycle. Round and round no longer goes forward, ever so slowly. I walk with my own feet inside new and noble shoes, feeding on a dream, held up in comforting arms. Yesterday done, I live each day, confident only tomorrow knows. And that's my follow-up poem to Unguarded.
It's
That
beautifully inspiring,
it
beautifully
is.
read.
Yeah, thank you. I, for some reason, I felt compelled not just to write Unguarded, but to write this one too. And it was the thing that I got out of it for myself was the suggestion that there is a tomorrow, but there is nothing about tomorrow that is promised specifically to you, but only if you decide not to go through with suicide. And that's the reason why I told people, well, Unguarded is not really a poem about suicide so much as it is surviving it. And one of the understandings you come away with is that you recognize that there is a tomorrow, because when you're in the suicide mindset, you think, okay, this is it. There's no more tomorrow. I don't have anything else to live for, that kind of thought. And this poem was suggesting, well, there actually is a tomorrow, but you have to want to find out by not undertaking a permanent solution to a temporary issue. And so, when somebody plagiarized this poem, it was very personal to me. And that was the main reason why I got upset, was like, you know what? You could have taken any one of my 1,220 poems, but you chose to take that one. And when they went so far as to publish it, I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get you for this one." I just could not, accept that somebody had taken something so personal to my life and made off with it. I mean, because I, anything else, I would have gladly offered, half my CD collection if that was what they were looking for, something to kind of satisfy their music absence or whatever. But to take something that was so personal to me that, I had to discover through a crisis moment, that was too much for me to bear. And so I'm still trying to figure out just exactly what do I got to do. So
I can hear you. I understand where you're coming from there. Like when somebody takes something that's so personal to you and then does that. I had someone, when my husband passed away, she started writing a script based on, the stories that I was telling about my life and everything like that. And she was going to publish, like she was going to create a movie from it. I was like, oh, hell no, you don't. I mean, this woman, I wanted to if I disliked anybody, that would be that woman.
yeah,
She played the role of my best friend and hero, and tried to come and like she embedded herself into my life, trying to be like my friend and everything. Like she was like the individual who, the people who participated in the murder of my husband's, she hid them at her house for a few days. She is a minister and she hid them at her house for a few days and stuff like that. And then, you know, when they ended up getting picked up, she all of a sudden friended me and became really friendly and stuff like that. And I was like, what the hell is your agenda? Like, what are you out for? I mean, just like, oh, I really care about you. And I'm like, yeah, sure. You're suffering from guilt. You have another agenda. You're something like this. You hear she's like writing this script. And so my freaking tragedy has become in her mind a $. And I'm like, you freaking whatever. She even showed up at court with me. And the woman, like the news wanted to take a picture of me sitting on the stairs. And there she is, like at the top of the steps with a big ass smile on her face. And I'm like, who smiles at the court proceeding of your husband? Like you're supposed to be you're calling yourself my friend and my support system. And you're standing at the top of the steps right above me, trying to demonstrate that you're my support system with a big smile on your face. And I'm like, this is a moment of, you know, I just heard details from one of the criminals. He basically, told me details, and it's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah. And his, this is how he apologized. He's like, I've lost things too, because his part in my husband's murder resulted in his nephew committing suicide. Because his nephew, my husband had helped out when we helped him out with a job. We gave him direction. He did some roofing with us, and and he couldn't stomach everything that had gone on, and knew that his aunt and uncle had been part of this, and his actions resulted in his nephew committing suicide. And the person was standing up in court, and he's like, I understand what you're going through, because I felt lost too. And I'm like, what? So this is your apology, and I'm supposed to whatever? Yeah. And then, she was best friends with these people, and and then she's smiling at the top of the stairs when a picture is taken of me, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? And then she was writing a script, and she was like grilling me and my daughter for personal things so that she could write a script on what was going on. And then she even had laid out people that she would have play roles. And she's done broadcasting, and she had her own television program, so she could very well have done it. But I mean, I know what it's like to feel that. It's like, oh no, you don't. And she was taking things that I was writing and things that I was doing and creating it a script for herself about my life and my daughter, and about the tragedy that had gone on. And I was like, how the hell can you live with yourself to do something like that? And it's like, how could that woman who stole your poetry live with herself to do with that?
Yeah,
I understand complimenting the poet, understand complimenting the artist. I understand being inspired and creating something that was inspired by that piece, but make it your own. Don't just rip it off, steal it. And at least give credit to the person. At least give credit. It's like, you were inspired by this person, give them credit.
Yep.
You don't have to. You don't owe them credit, but it's good when you do. Don't steal their shit.
Yeah. I think there's a fine line between being inspired by a story versus appropriating a story. And when you decide to do the latter, that's when you walk into the unconscionable country, because you take a path that says, basically, I'm in this for profit, just like that lady was to you. And if I had seen her up at this top of the stairs smiling because she was going to dig from your personal life this treasure trove of tragedy, I would have thought of one of those Law and Order show moments, and I would have just looked up there and I would say, you bitch, and run straight for her jugular. There would be just no way I could hold back my fury, because that is just that's a violation on an order of massively personal proportions that I don't think anybody should be allowed to appropriate. That's just, it's one of those taboo things, or it should be taboo to ever consider doing something like that, much less going through it. And the unfortunate thing is, there's a lot of people who plagiarize other people's work all the time. I've discovered this. And the only thing that I can say to people, somebody asked me about, well, what do I do to protect myself? And I said, well, that's the reason why underneath all my poems, when you see them online, there's a copyright statement. And then there's a statement beneath that says, you don't get to copy this or put this or save this without the author's permission. And, when people ask me, hey, can I share this? I say, yeah, of course you can. But see, I do that because, that person has asked me. But when they don't, that's when we're going to come to loggerheads. And I feel
that copyright stamp and those words, they're like locks on a door. They're for honest people.
Yeah, exactly. Thieves don't, plagiarists and thieves don't look at stuff like that. They see, like you said, dollar signs and how can I profit from this? And to me, that's just unconscionable. I mean, how do you profit from someone's crisis or tragedy? You shouldn't be able to, unless it's something collective, like a war, between two countries. Then I can understand, you want to write about the history of the war and the warfare that occurred before and after and in between. But, you don't get into someone's personal tragedy, yet, like you said, without giving them credit, without asking for permission, without doing your due diligence and making sure you get the details right, and gaining some kind of approval to go forward with it. Otherwise, it's like, don't do it. You're really walking on coals of fire there. Wow. What a good.
We're writers. We basically are inspired by other writers. We're inspired by everything we see. We're inspired by that. And yes, we can create from that. We could take what we're inspired and create it and make it our own. And because everything, I mean, even the English language, the words, we're recycling the words and placing them in different ways, and we're making them our own. But the word, that's a different category of understanding. What she did with you is not cool at all. Yes, name her again.
That person's name is Bajul Patel Ransan, Ransan, I think is the last name. Bajul is spelled Bayjool, and then of course the middle name Patel is Patel. Fairly common name in Indian circles.
Yeah, it is. Okay,
but
thank you very much.
I will definitely be on the lookout for her, and and the person that was impersonating me created a Instagram profile with my whole name except for my middle name, just changed the middle name from Edward to Alex and used my pictures. And I was just like, whoa, when I saw that, that was funny and spooky at the same time, because I didn't think that I could be, regarded as someone like that. And then to turn around and then make a comment on my page from that named Instagram profile, I was like, wow, you got a lot of balls to do something like that. I mean,
it's like,
I don't even have the brass pair that could fit between my legs to do that sort of thing.
Make a fake profile and then be like, hi, over here, look at me.
Yeah, I mean, it just came out and made a comment on my page. I was like, ah.
Wow.
There's just, I mean, what universe are we living in?
I don't know. I'm starting to wonder that. I'm like, over the past few years, I'm like, what Twilight Zone did I enter? Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. No, it's only, what has it been? Barely a week, maybe a week and a half now, that I can actually laugh about it. I mean, then I was just like, ooh, like I said, it was the William Shatner look out the window of the airplane and see the boogeyman. It was that kind of a moment, because I wrote to my friends and basically told them the story from the point of view of, can you believe this? And I was waiting for the shoe to drop and someone say, no, that couldn't possibly happen to you, but yeah, it did. It did. Just like, I remember the time when my apartment was broken in and they stole personal property of mine and some music equipment from a roommate of mine in college. That felt like a major violation. The irony to that story is that the same friend that I had in college who left his musical equipment in my apartment that was stolen, he turned around and stole money from his own store because he was trying to satisfy this older woman he was in love with. And I thought, wow, talk about your soul turning completely around and doing something that you had suffered from. I mean, that was truly backwards. And I, sadly enough, I ended up telling his mother where he was, and she and his aunt came and picked him up. And, my friend was looking at me like, how could you? And I looked at him like, how could you? You put me in a position to be an accessory. And I wasn't going to do that. I told him basically, I said, I may be your best friend, but I can't do that. I can't. So it was one of those difficult moments in life that you have to go through and hopefully learn something from it that you can pass on to somebody else and basically say, hey, if you ever think about doing this, don't, because think about the loved ones you're going to be putting in danger. Think about those people who are going along for the ride involuntarily and going to suffer from the consequences of your actions. I mean, that's not right either. And, if we all thought more carefully like that, we probably would avoid a ton of mistakes that we make in life. But,
If we thought
mistakes.
of everything more as a collaboration, that it's like whatever we're doing affects everybody around us, and it's like a rippling effect. It's like a domino effect, right? You do something,
Yes.
the domino falls, and it affects everything and everyone around you. If we
Yes.
thought more of it like we're collaborating with each other and we considered each other more than we do, things would be different than they are now.
Yes, exactly. One of the things that I learned from Buddhism was that we all create echoes and ripples.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of us, through our actions, affects others. Because why? Because we're not separated. We live with this illusion that we are separate entities from everybody else. And that right there is a sermon of a completely, long-winded dissertation, but you can come to the understanding by basically realizing that no man is an island. Every one of us does things that other people are going to be affected by. And the sooner you realize that, the closer you are to the understanding that the only cure for that is compassion. Once you start to develop compassion and recognize that we are all connected, then you're a lot more careful about the things that you do. You start walking a path of being between extremes as opposed to going to one extreme or another to satisfy your dissatisfaction and then end up hurting somebody as a result of it. So yeah, Echoes and Ripples. That's actually the title of one of my other books of poems. I wrote that one about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Gave a copy to my therapist who administers my medicine. she enjoyed that book. She said, I love that title. And I said, yeah, well, I don't come by the titles of my poetry books lightly. They always have some meaning behind it. Is that the timer? Is the cake ready?
Oh, no. It's just, I'm constantly being called, texted, something.
One.
You're so popular.
I'm a very popular person over here. It's usually like, well, yeah, it's always somebody wanting something.
Where's Alicia?
Huh?
Where's Alicia?
I'm here.
She's there. She's hiding in the corner.
Alicia's quietly listening to everything. You always got to watch out for the quiet one.
It's true. I wrote a poem about that once.
Yeah. Quiet ones have very interesting lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll just say it's not always people who are just wanting something, because there's lots of people who just check on me or, tell me that they appreciate me or something. There's that too. But usually at this time at night, it's somebody wanting something. I try to shut off. I thought I had all my devices shut off. I mean, earlier the phone wouldn't stop ringing. It's like, come on. When I hit the decline, it means I don't want to answer. We'll call back 1,000 times. Decline. Appropriate topic.
You earlier on a German public news program, and this German reporter, she was interviewing former General David Petraeus, an army general, and trying to get his opinion on what was going on in Ukraine. And at the end of the conversation, his phone goes off, and he says something like, "I'm sorry, I have to end this interview, but I've got to go." And she quickly chimed in, "Okay, Auf Wiedersehen." I thought, oh my God, I can't believe it. Someone's phone going off during an interview.
Well, this is, the times of COVID. Strange things happen. You can carry around mobile devices. You think you got them shut off, but no. I've got 4 or 5 over here. Which one's going off? Oh, jeez. Okay. Well, thank you very much for this wonderful banter. It was great. And thank you for being so personal. I kind of have decided to take a little bit of a different step from now on. And me too. Today, I spoke with my therapist. Actually, I had a psychological assessment today.
No way, because
that's another one, because I've got post-traumatic stress disorder.
Holy
I am
cow.
a veteran,
Yeah,
and I'm on one of those programs where they get to determine what I do with my life right now. It's like, are you ready to take the next step? Let's do another psychological assessment and see if you are in the right state of mind to be able to take the next step, because we have to make sure, cross all our T's and dot all our I's before we move you on to the next phase of your program. The reintegration to civilian life / rehabilitation. Actually, I'm not going to complain about that, because you don't want to throw a soldier out into civilian life, or you don't want to somebody who's been traumatized or suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, has served their time. It used to be that you just kind of you had no support, and now they are implementing these programs and there is more support. Of course, myself, I'm voicing a lot because I've been going through it for the past few years. There was no help for a very long time, and I'm basically it's catered to me, and I keep voicing it, going, oh, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. It's like I'm evaluating my own therapist and telling them what they need to do over what I'm supposed to be doing, because that's what I seem to be spending a lot of time doing. It's like, this doesn't work for me. This works. If you say this is going to result in that. So it's almost like I'm a guinea pig at this moment in time. And I don't mind it, because, if we keep going through these programs, it's going to show the system what works for other veterans and other soldiers. But it's annoying, because it's like somebody gets to deem whether I can take the next step and, take on full-time studies or something like that. But yeah, my therapist today, she's like, so what are you, the psychologist, when she was doing the assessment, she's like, so what are you doing to like, are you hiding away from the things that cause you triggers? And I'm like, no. I'm like, I have a male therapist. One of my primary provider, he's a male. I actually have a couple of different therapists going on, but my primary one is a male, and I am working with him. Number one, his name is a trigger. He's ex-military. He was a soldier for 35 years. So there's that. They're like, I mean, I have my entire thing catered to having all my triggers smack dab in the face. It's like not running away from them, looking at them. But see, and a lot of people will want to hide away from that, but I'm not, and I'm doing it in a way that is control, where I have some control of the entire thing. I'm driving the entire program. But she says to me, she's like, with the podcast, she's like, what are you doing? It's like, well, you know, I've started this way where I'm live and I'm reading and I'm interacting with a group of people, and yes, it's in a comfortable distance. And I started off with just reading it. Now we're going to move on to interviewing and like having conversations and just like opening myself up to things that I wouldn't do before, little by little by little. And then, you know, today I told her, I said, I'm going to move on to having little interviews. And here we are today having a full-on conversation and stepping outside of my comfort zone. Really stepping outside of my comfort zone. And I'm very happy that I had Charles today to do that with. So
that's cool. And you helped me when you told your story to be able to put some fine lines of silver linings around my cloud. Not to sound so poetic and metaphoric, but what you basically did for me was you showed me some positives by relating your story in a way that not only resonates with me, but I can see how you understand where I'm coming from, and I feel less a stranger now because of what you shared. Because now I can't say, oh, this happened to me, and I can't find anybody who relates to it. I don't have that license anymore, and I'm glad to be able to throw that license away. It's much better to be able to say that you can relate to someone's story after listening to their story, and how much it identifies with yours. So yeah, thank you so much for that. And I'm glad I'm part of with you ladies, because it's getting out of my shell, and I think in a large part it's preparing me for something bigger. I don't know exactly what that is, but I think I sense that this is training ground for me. And the good thing about it is I'm getting out of my shell too, you know, because
that's exactly what I have been saying to Alicia. I've been telling her that we've been walking through, it's like we've been walking through training scenarios and the real show is coming, but we've been like walking through a training session. You know how, okay, as a soldier, you an experience that I have as a soldier, you walk through a scenario, you walk your mind through it. And even in Buddhism, there's similar things, and meditation. You walk your mind through a situation. You picture it, you clearly walk through it, every detail of that. Your mind believes it's done. And then you can do it. And then when you go to do it, it's done. Like your mind already thinks you've done it. So you walk through that scenario very easily. And that's what I feel that we're doing right now, in a sense. We're walking ourselves through something that is going to be like, yeah.
In the movie The Matrix, Morpheus says to Neo, he says, you're gonna understand that there's a big difference between knowing the path and walking the path. And it took a while for me to understand exactly what that meant, but when I finally figured it out for myself, I was like, of course, you know, I think part of this is being able to reach a wider audience, because if you have the courage to share among a few people that are somewhat familiar to you, think of the power and the courage it's going to take to be able to share that before 10, before 20, before 100, before 1,000. Because it can get to
that end, we have something. We've lived the life of, we've been down we've been down at rock bottom. We've experienced a lot of tragedies. Some of us have been homeless and found ways to move forward. We have skill sets that are extremely helpful if we talk about, and people can relate to us. But think about it right now with COVID and everything that's going on. There will be an entire population now that is experiencing depression and all of these things that they would have never experienced before. And just by us speaking and us being out there and about us telling our stories and sharing our journeys, we're giving them keys. We're giving them keys to walk forward with. We're implementing things to help other people through our own story. I mean, it's like I felt before COVID hit. I felt, and I was saying, it's a weird thing. I was going through a lot of things, but I put out this video and I was like, it's time for you to rise up. Something's coming. It's like, basically I was telling everybody on the video, it's like the hermits have to come out of their shell. It's time for you to speak. You've gone through all of these things. It's time for you to speak. It's time for you to talk about it. It's time for you to bring it out there. It's time to step out of your comfort zone. It's time to basically shine and show yourself and tell your story and bring it out there. And I was saying that something's coming, and it was like you'd seen all the hermits kind of coming out of their shell, people speaking about things that they've never spoke before, and stepping out, like you, like Alicia, like me. It's all across the board, and it's like we've collectively agreed that this is what we're going to do, and it's just we've come to a point where we're now working towards the collaboration. Yes, there is still a little bit of division going on, but it's like on a grand scale. So we have this energetic understanding that we're going to come together and start collaborating more.
Yes.
And be patient and teach each other and learn how to become more patient and understanding and collaborate. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I just came up with a thought. I think if you're going to heal division, the good place to start is not through a commonality of ideas, but a commonality of experience.
Commonality of experience. Exactly.
Yeah. Once you recognize pieces of your story and the pieces of other stories, that's a good place to start, because that's when you can sit down at a table and, like a meal, share portions of yourself that are digestible because they're common. And it's those commonalities that's going to bring us together. And that's not a recipe for kumbaya. That's a recipe for unity, because it says that it doesn't matter how different your appearance or name or culture or language are, your commonality of shared portions of experience that you have with others, that's what's going to get you together. And once you recognize that those are more important, then you can start to establish a commonality of ideas, the things that you consider important enough to function with, that you think are necessary, like freedom and equality and justice and, things like that, prosperity. That's when it's easier. But I think,
let's be realistic. Whether we understand it or not, we've all been passed on our familial demons.
Yeah.
We suffer from intergenerational and generational trauma. What our ancestors suffered through, we have taken on. And we are we are feeling those things, and we have that running in our blood, and it is part of us. And a lot of times we don't even really understand why we're feeling this way or why. But I mean, it's like you can sense when your mother or your father is upset without them even having to say a word. And a lot of the trauma, it just gets passed on from generation to generation, and you're experiencing that. So one major commonality every single person has in this world is we've taken on our familial trauma. We all have that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good. Wow. Well, it's going to be exciting to see how your next show gets put together and what poems are shared. This is where I think poetry heals, and poetry cares. It's poetry to me is not just an assemblage of verbiage or words, and arranged in such a way that evokes some kind of glorification or makes it fancy. I think it's an expression of experiences that translates into a message that we all need. And I think that's the operative phrase right there. I think people need poetry. I think one of the reasons why I'm seeing so many poets bursting out on Facebook and Instagram is that there's a need for it. And just like you just described about COVID, that's another avenue, another environment that has brought up all these commonalities of experience. People feeling lonely, depressed, isolated, helpless. These are all things that we're starting to recognize that we have in common, and that's where we need to reach out with each other in those places. And poetry can help us do that. Poetry can give voice to those who never thought they had a voice. That's why when newbies come to me and they say, well, how did you get to be so great with your words? I'm like, great, I'm still learning. I mean, I haven't arrived, if that's what you're insinuating. I mean, there's no gate that I've passed through and I can say, yeah, now I'm a poet. I was like, well, believe it or not, when you wrote something that sounded one of a kind and clever on Instagram or Facebook today, you may not have realized it, but you may have put together the basic components of a poem and not even knowing it. So, I tell people, give yourself more credit. I mean, I there's this one friend of mine that, I remember in the beginning, she never could think of herself as a poet, but now 10 years after the fact, she's calling herself a poet. And I said, you know what? I knew you had it all along. You just needed someone to help you open your own door, because I didn't open it for you. The world was already waiting for you. All you needed to do was put your hand in the knob and turn it. And that's all I did, was I just showed you where the knob was, So now she's writing, good pieces. There's another, you might have heard of Mary Grace Gonzalez. She's from the Philippines.
I love Mary Grace's work. I got one of her books. Her book, Where to Find Me. Yeah, I definitely encourage her all the time because she is an amazing poet.
Yeah, just the way she writes. I mean, a rookie might come along and say, I can't make any sense of this, and I'm like, oh no, read it again, because you're gonna find that she identifies a lot of things that happen in our lives that we didn't really find a way to put into words. And that's what I think good poets do. They find their own voice to do that.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. And that's the point. Find your own voice and allow yourself to speak, and don't. I think the problem that we have a lot of times is we have that, that judging voice, that judging personality, that voice in the back of our mind is like, this is not good enough. This isn't how it's supposed to be. But it is. It's your voice. You got to find it. Let it speak. Just let it flow, and don't judge it. Just put it on the piece, put it on paper, put it out there. Let the creation become what it wants to become. Just let your voice, just let it go, let it flow.
Yeah.
Don't try and don't put. I guess don't put it in a jail cell by trying to confine it to what you think it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I like to think sometimes too that when I'm encouraging people who are starting off in writing poetry, aside from also telling them to read poetry, I tell them, don't worry about how to construct it necessarily. Do that later. Do that as you go along, when you figure out, how the Lego blocks fit and why they fit. But
and we all have our own style. It's like you have your own style. So when you start just putting it out on paper and you start reading your own poems, you're going to start to develop your own style.
Yes.
And it's going to be very unique to you.
Yes. And I think it's so important when I'm talking to people to try to encourage, the first timers to do that from the word jump. Don't wait to tell yourself later on, okay, at phase 3, I'm going to start developing my own style. I'm like, no, you're going to start doing it right off the bat, because to me, the only way that you're going to identify a style per se is you've got to be able to say it in your own words. It's like I tell people, Pablo Neruda's poetry is a big time influence on my work, but I didn't start off trying to write like him. I just remembered some of the things that he talked about, and then I tried to express it in my own voice. And I didn't start off with the greatest of metaphors, but when I learned what a metaphor was, and I learned about alliteration, about how to put 3 words in a row that have the same beginning consonant, I started to say, oh, okay, this is how he pieced certain things together. But, he didn't overdo it. He just let his own voice speak. And it just so happens that his voice told him, okay, say it like this. This is what your inspiration is saying. And, there's a poem that he wrote that talks about this. It talks about, at first it might sound clumsy. It might sound unreadable or whatever, but don't worry about it. Just say it in your own voice, because sooner or later, you're going to start saying it in a way that starts to not only make sense to you, but other people are going to make sense of it in their own version. It's like, if you have 15 people at a car accident, you're going to get 15 different stories about how the accident happened. Well, that's the same thing with poetry. The gift of the poet is you're the transmission antenna for the inspiration. The reception is going to come out 10, 15, 100 different ways. Maybe it comes out a million ways. Maybe a million people start buying your poetry and saying, well, this is my version of what I got out of, Marie's poem. And you're going to be amazed to hear it. You're going to
because it's like, no, because everybody who reads it is going to read it a different way. They're going to take what they need from it.
Yes, exactly. That's why I sometimes tell people, poems are a little bit like sermons, except that, they're not preachy. They're not trying to get a religious message through, but they're trying. And that something is always going to be different from receiver to receiver. And that's the beauty of art is not in the art itself. It's in the many different ways it's interpreted. It's kind of like looking at a diamond, and a diamond isn't made of exact angles. It's made of refractions that occur like accidents in nature. And then once you put light on it, then it comes up with something called sparkle, and that's what makes poems their different receptions and interpretations.
Yes.
That's why we need to do more of these, damn it.
Yes. I say myself, I often say to Alicia, it's like, yeah, in 20,000 years, you never know. Our poetry books will be like the Bible. Because they're pretty, their stories,
And there's going to
their
be
sermons.
a hall of Alicia, and your poems are going to be painted in 10 different ways on a wall, and people are going to look at them and say, I wonder what the real Alicia was like. What was she thinking when she wrote this? And oh boy.
Yeah.
What the hell is he? But that's true. I mean, somebody could uncover your work one day and say that, and and I don't know, somebody probably will do that with mine too, and then they'll have some goofy actor playing the role of me somewhere, and I'll be looking down from the sky saying, that guy's not getting it right.
Not even close. What the heck?
Not
I often laugh because some people portray me as being okay. There are people out there that portray me as being an evil witch doctor, a narcissist, a psychopath, and what is this? What are the other words? A cult leader for real. I'm like, great. I'm going to use those and I'm going to create monikers on them, and I'll play the role.
It'll be fun.
I could just imagine what people would imagine of me in 20,000 years. I'd be like, I'd be the devil. If the devil had a face 20,000 years ago, this would be her. Just kidding.
She was her time. Her name.
Okay. So I really enjoyed this chat, and I hope that our future podcast goes similar to this. I think that they're probably going to take a life of their own from this point on. I really do. I believe now that the door is open, they're going to take a life of their own. But we're going to move on to the next readings of the remaining feature poets. And I just wanted to say I really enjoyed this conversation with you, Charles, and I absolutely adore your poetry. So keep writing. I did listen in on one of your podcasts this week, and I really enjoyed that as well. So keep doing that too.
It's like, okay, it's almost 7 here. I'm trying to decide whether I want to do one tonight on Facebook and Instagram or not. I haven't really decided yet, but I was sort of planning on doing one later. You might see me pop up later. I don't know. I may take a break for 30 minutes here and get something to drink, but I'm trying to get in the habit of getting out there and just getting in the practice of doing it, even on days when I may not feel the most whatever, because to me it's reading poetry is a little bit like dressing casual. Somebody tells you to dress casual, what do they mean? They're basically saying, well, come as you are. So I'm going to kind of try to take my poetry readings that way. Just learn how to just come as I am and read my poetry, and and then maybe start opening it up to people coming on the video with me and saying, okay, do you have a question, or is there something that you'd like to read, or do you just want to say gobbledygook and Lady Gaga looks like a broom and whatever and all that. No offense to Lady Gaga, though. I actually
no, I mean, people like Lady Gaga open the doors for other people to just go out and express in ways that they weren't able to express before. Like Madonna, she opened the door for a whole new industry, and allowed a lot of women to be able to come out and express in ways that they were not allowed to express before. So, yeah. No, totally appreciate that. Yes, it might have been controversial at the time, but hey.
It's almost become mainstream now. If it wasn't for the fact that she has this devil may care sort of personality, but she's so cute the way she expresses herself, and she does it in such a way that she kind of lets you know, look, you don't have to be ashamed because I'm not, you know. I just
No.
listen to her and I just think, God, where was that confidence when I needed it back in my 20s? I mean, but so many more. I was more like,
Yep.
Oh, oh no. Just express you, Charles. Express you and be proud to be you and
right.
understand that you are enough. I mean, that's where it is. I think we've spent our whole a lot of our lives trying to please everybody else. And I'm at that point in my life where it's like kiss my royal let's flip the bird. Look at the moon. Because I am me and I'm going to tell my story. There's people that aren't going to like it. They're going to call me a drama queen. They're going to hate it. It's because it triggers in them emotions that they're not ready to feel. And I'm just going to keep going and I'm just going to do it because you know what? That's my story. It's my tale. I know it's like the emotions I'm putting out there and I know I know that my words will help other people, but I'm also, I'm stepping up for myself and saying, hey, this is me. Like it or not, I don't care. If you don't like it, there's the door, walk. But usually, most of the time, if a person has an issue with us, it's because they are triggered by something that we have said or how we have expressed. And it's something within themselves. Something they don't want to face, something they don't want to look at, or some form of it. Basically, it's an emotion. A lot of people don't like the things I do or say. And it's because I have triggered in them an emotion that they're not ready. They don't want to face right now. And so, go ahead and hate me for that, but that ain't my problem. I didn't do to you.
Right.
I really didn't. I don't go around purposely going, oh, look at that. You've got a giant bubble. I must pop right now. No. You've come onto my page. You've come into my radar. You're listening to me speak. So that means on some level, energetically, you have placed yourself into my radar. And whatever it is that I am going to express right at that moment in time is something that somewhere on some level that you need to hear. And it could piss you off right at this moment, but that will pass. And if you trigger the heck out of me, obviously something something I needed to hear, experience, and learn from at this moment in time to be able to move forward. And that's the thing, to be able to move forward.
And that's a cycle of how most things work. Is they tend to come out as controversial or misunderstood in the beginning, and then in the end, we all come to terms with it in our own way, and we come to an acceptance. That's why I like to say, when people ask me, well, define God in your language, and I tell them truth, love, acceptance. Those are the three things that I think if I had to draw a picture for you in words, what God is, that's what I say, because that's all we all are seeking. We want to know the truth, and allow that to set us free of permission. We want to be loved and give love because that's the most positive of all energies in the universe. And we all want some degree of acceptance. We don't want to be rejected. Nobody wants to be rejected at every turn. We want to be accepted. And I think that
here's the reality. We're all existing on this in this environment together, whether we're in Africa or in Canada or in Australia. We're all here collectively as an energy together. So on some level, we have accepted each other across the board. In order for us to be able to exist together, we have a root of acceptance right there. Now it's almost like at some point in time we're trying to sever those ties or we're conflicted with that, but there is across the board we have an understanding of acceptance. We wouldn't be able to be energetically together as we are Yes, we do have wars. Yes, we do have conflicts. Yes, we do have emotions. But on an energetic level, we are accepting of each other on like at the root of everything, in order to be able to exist here and see each other in existence. That's my opinion. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next set of poems by the remaining featured poets. And once again, thank you, Charles, for joining us. I'm just going to plop you out of the front stage and into the backstage.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
You're welcome. Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Well, of course, you're doll. We love you. Take that as a compliment. Okay. So the next poet that we're going to read, or I'm going to read, is Tom Cleary. I absolutely enjoy Tom Cleary. He is also a moderator at Three Amigos and can Splatter. And I'll tell a little bit of a backstory with me and Tom. Tom was plopped into the group by Mary Grace Gonzalez. Thank you, Mary. And I guess he came onto my radar when there was conflict between me and another poetry group for some reason. Somebody, and somebody was saying some things, and I read some of the comments that Tom had placed, and I was like intrigued. So I invited him into my zone because I like to when I see somebody, and I often friend somebody who might have a conflict with me to give them opportunity to actually know me. And I saw Tom as even based on the comments that I saw there in the comment section of a conflict scenario, I seen Tom as a very a person with a lot of heart. And I guess that's probably more why he intrigued me. It was probably less the conflict scenario and more the full of heart comments that he made. And I don't know, he kind of just appealed to me as being somebody I would want to have the opportunity to get to know, despite whatever conflict scenario had been put into place. And I'm glad I did it because he's actually, I saw him as an amazing person. He is an amazing person. He's full of heart. He's an amazing poet. He's very kind. He's got a big heart. And I absolutely enjoy his personality. He's warm. He's loyal. And he's a friend that you would definitely, he's like a person you want on your side because he, like I said, he is a person with a lot of heart. The poem that I'm going to read of Tom's is Lifelike. Instead, stores of style. Mannequins are the mastoids of mum. I have freely flirted with fine female forms, whispered wisp of wonderlust. Into rubber-rubbed ears as posed polyurethane palms, reaching to romanticize rigidity, patiently posed in passion, neither nimble nor naive. I can help but wonder if deep inside their blonde billows gaze a glass and flecks of finger. Froze forever, they slightly sob, trying to touch and turn. That is a beautiful piece. There's another one of his that is one of my favorites, but I won't read this evening. It's called Dawn. If you haven't checked out Tom's writing, please do. I mean, he is an extremely, well, he's an impressive poet. I'm just going to say that. He is a person with a lot of heart. He's a good, kind person. And I'm really glad that I took the stance to go out and befriend him and not just, judge the scenario from a different way. And I'm really glad that I looked at the scenario and said, I'm intrigued. I would like to approach this person and see if we could be friends because I think he is really awesome, despite what was being said at the time. I mean, I understand, sometimes people can, if you're loyal to a person, you want to believe everything. You want to believe that what they're saying to be one way. And we're often, I've been a victim of it. Listening to somebody and what they say, and kind of wanting to side with that scenario and finding myself wrong in that. And so being that I've seen that in myself and I've been there and done that, I completely understand how easy that can be. And I try to offer opportunity as much as I can, because I feel that instead of just, you should always try to look at something and get to know the other person and see all sides of it if you can. Before just blindly judging a situation, go see all sides of it. And I'm glad that he took the opportunity to come in and get to know me and join us in this group. And he's a wonderful, amazing person. And I really enjoy his commitment to other poets and helping other poets grow, because he really does put a lot of effort and dedication into helping people with their growth in their poetry. So we'll move on to the next poet, and Alicia, you can read that. I don't know why I feel like I'm going to cry, but I feel like I'm going to cry. Oh, geez, I'm emotional. Weirdly emotional. You know. Okay, Michael Taylor. He's one of your favorites. I'll let you read Michael Taylor.
Yes, I love Taylor's work. He always has some amazing art to go with it.
Yeah.
Yep. And this piece is untitled.
Okay, wait.
The artist.
I'm going to put it up on the screen. There we go.
I'm rushing things.
Yes, it's a small piece, but there we go.
All right. The artist draws what he perceives to be for all the world to see. The poet writes the words that he sees. Darkness and light is a part of both, many reflections of the soul, finding deeper depth that have been known. Understanding the cause and effect of what is being shown, knowing there's always something waiting to be shown. Hidden truths waiting to be known, brush and pen give form to it all. Now how much are you willing to show? Anything at all? Very lovely piece.
Mm-hmm. And I think, what is the group? I think it is Dark Poetry Minds. He is an admin of the group Dark Poetry Minds. So if you haven't checked that group out, do it. Check it out. Go become a part of their organization. Drop your poetry in there and party up with Michael and his friends. Michael's pretty cool. I like his poetry.
Yes. Very glad to have him in the group.
Go to the virtual version of Quebec. The poetic virtual version of Quebec. Yes, jump in there. My group is the virtual version of Arkansas, Oregon, Australia, and Canada.
Four corners.
The four corners. Yes, like the four horsemen. Oh no, maybe that's. The next featured poet is Michael Falls. And I will read this one. I'm just going to make sure you can see it clearly on the screen. Another day. If the struggle is real, why does nobody win the life that it steals? Gone away on the wind, in darkness and light, it's all just the same. The air seems so heavy where they lay the blame. Where is salvation in a graveyard of hope, stream and denial, hang from ropes? Another day like the one before, hear and obey, don't care anymore. Just another day with wires to trip, a slippery slope, we're losing our grip. Seems so surreal how hard the fight where they see day, you see night. Another day dawns just like the rest here then gone, forgive and forget. And that is a piece by Michael Falls. If you haven't read any of Michael's work, please go check it out. He's a great poet. I feel that he is a very supportive person of me. So a lot of my growth, I would say, as my encouragement comes from individuals like Michael, like Stuart, and various other people, Ratty and Alicia, and some other people that I haven't named yet. And I appreciate them, because if it wasn't for them, I don't know where I'd be right now. And I thank you. I thank them for being a part of my journey. Okay.
Well, I'm very thankful that you're a part of mine as well.
Aw.
It's an honor to have you in my life.
Yes. This evil witch doctor. I might shrink your head. Sprinkle
You could try.
some kind of fine powder.
You can try, lady.
I'll be a head shrinker. Okay, so I will let you read Taylor Newman's poem, Hemorrhaging. Okay. Actually, it's lyrics, but we'll see the fine lines on that. There we go.
All right, Hemorrhaging. I'm not your average fucking writer. I never have been, never will. Known to go straight for the throat, say I go straight for the kill. They say I'm not a simple bleeder, that I'm not like all the rest. Well, hold on tight, my little darlings, see if I can pass those tests. I'm the one whom needs no reason, and your minds I'll then defy. There's not a thing alive to stop me, don't waste your effing time. I'm the words you can't think of, so don't you even start to try, as I bleed them on your screens before you blinked an eye. Yeah, I'm a juggernaut of wonder, effing madmen on the loose, and it is not the words I choose, but in how they're put to use. So come on, tell me, how am I doing? Yeah, am I passing all your tests? Well then, fuck it, please excuse me while I bleed now all the rest. Once this pen of mine gets rolling, oh, it's a sharp, oiled machine, and with a mind that's all its own, slice you open at your seams. Can walk right through your mind, go to places you'd not known, go through its halls and corridors, its thoughts become my own. I'm the words you can't think of, so don't you even start to try, as I bleed them on your screens before you blinked an eye. Yeah, I'm a juggernaut of wonder, effing madman on the loose, and it is not the words I choose, but in how they're put to use. They say my words run so deep, I say with me it's sink or swim. If you've come to share my depth, wear preservers and come in. Deep in the mind of this madman, and a pen that's bleeding out, there lives forever raging storms that'll silence all mere doubts. As I clench my blood-soaked fists and the storms in me rage on, I shall continue with this bleeding which will never then be done. I'm the words you can't think of, so don't you even start to try, as I bleed them on your screens before you've blinked an eye. Yeah, I'm a juggernaut of wonder, effing madman on the loose, and it is not the words I choose, but in how they're put to use. I will always bleed till nothing's left, until I'm cold, dead, and blue, and all this blood shall never stop till I reach the souls in you. And I don't need no introductions, 'cause you all know who I am. I'm that one who bleeds in words, and who doesn't give a damn. So go and call me what you wish, but one thing shall always be, all my words cannot be silenced. When I die, they'll all roam free. I'm the words you can't think of, so don't you even start to try, as I bleed them on your screens before you've blinked an eye. Yeah, I'm a juggernaut of wonder, effing madman on the loose, and it's not the words I choose, but in how they're put to use. I am the one who writes in blood, I'm the one who brings you tears, I'm the one whose pen can take you to your death or kill your fears. I am words which deeply love you, not afraid to show how much. I am those chills upon your spine you shall feel without a touch. I'm the care that can besiege you, that far exceeds encouraging, can also be your effing nightmare. I am forever hemorrhaging.
And that piece of, I don't know if you can see it on the screen, that beautiful piece of artwork is also Taylor Newman's. I very much enjoy Taylor's work. I can, a lot of it is triggering, and I can see why a lot of people would avoid it. But I mean, it really does touch the raw emotion, and his words have the capacity to free from you, just like, it's like pop that little bubble that needs to be popped so that you can experience that emotion that needs to be addressed. I enjoy Taylor. He's an amazing person. It's like very friendly to everybody, very love, light, and whatnot with everybody. He is a very, very kind-hearted individual. And if you haven't checked out Taylor's work, please do go check out Taylor Newman. Show him some love, as well as everybody else on here. So the next poem, I'm kind of glad that I get to read, over you, because it's Stuart's. I enjoy Stuart Marshall's mind. He's a phenomenal person, and I have started a podcast with him called The Art of Noise. And again, the madness behind that method is, again, my triggers. I'm working on a lot of things with myself, and I want to grow and move forward. And people and kind-hearted individuals like Stuart are going along with me on the ride. And a backstory in this is Stuart would represent somebody subconsciously, and this is something I even talked about with the psychologist doing the assessment with me today. Somebody who was my best friend, who I would call my Judas, led me to slaughter back when I was a soldier in the early career of me being a soldier. He basically sold me up the river for, popularity and so on and so forth. And not that Stuart Marshall would. Stuart Marshall is an amazing person, but there are triggers like words and names that really really hit those things and bring forward those memories for me. And working with Stuart is ex-military. His name represents something for me. It represents something very strong in one of the most powerful traumas I have experienced. And he is a male, because I was violated in ways that nobody should be. And so him working with me is like me working past and growing and expanding, just basically facing all of the things that would hold me back and stepping forward. And it's like I know I've catered to myself, my plan. I have this madman plan in the back of me, and I'm like, okay, I shall go and go speak with all these people and they will help me. No, yes, Stuart is very, very kind, and he is part of my support system, and I appreciate him more than he can even understand. So Stuart Marshall's poem goes like this. Aw, isn't that cute? 4-year-olds with an IQ higher than God. Really? Not everyone can have a high IQ. What is this attempting to prove? Is that giving the rest of humanity the middle finger? Are you giving it to yourself? Is that criticizing ignorance? People are ignorant until they know shit. That's the way it goes. If no one tells them shit, they're still ignorant. If parents don't tell their kids to respect life and don't do crime, they listen to their peers somehow get a gun online and kill people for sorts of reasons that are unreasonable. If parents don't teach them how to think, then they basically don't. They basically don't. I don't care if their IQ is 250. They'll find a way to be more brilliant. Hitlers or stallions kill millions, start wars and lose their minds, try to start a new race, put people in ovens, etc., then kill themselves in bunkers with their boy and girlfriends. History repeats itself and no one notices. We have to do the opposite, starting with parents. But it seems being good doesn't get you noticed or elected or make you popular because you basically are ignorant. You don't know yourself. You don't know people. You make excuses by bringing up bad history, going back 400 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 years instead of finding ways to change shit. Now, you can't do shit about Jesus' crucifixion or what happened in Dallas or what happened on King's apartment balcony or what happened in Africa 406 years ago when the Angolians were enslaving their own people and trying to figure out how to monetize slavery in that new land across the sea. Really? White people had something to do with that? Okay, socialize your kids so they don't turn into low-end criminals or high-end Hitlers with a disgust complex, and before they're 4 years old, or no one will want to play with them at 5 or 25, and they become Black Lives Matter and Antifa and maybe Nazis. Now, I realize that entire poem could be controversial, but I read it, and I support Stuart in his brilliant mind, and you know what? Sometimes the things that nobody wants to say need to be said. So check out Stuart Marshall if you haven't. He has an amazing mind and he speaks it. And you know what? I encourage people to speak their mind in poetry, to let out the things that are running around in their mind, put it into words, put it into poetry, because you know what? That's how we figure shit out. That's how we figure it out. That's how we sort out the things that we're conflicted with. That's how we get our emotions placed on a paper in a way that we can look at it and we can work with. I mean, you can work with it if you can see it in front of you, right? I mean, don't suppress it. Don't let it become some bottled up angry thing that, explodes in a violent way. Put it on paper. Speak your mind, put it on paper, make a masterpiece, create it, turn it into poetry. Don't let it bombard your mind over and over again, creating a chaos within your own a chaos in your soul, a chaos of your soul. Just put it out, get it out, speak it. Somebody's going to get offended. They will. And I mean, you have this option. It's called scrolling. If you don't like what you see, scroll. You choose what you want to read or not want to read. You choose what you want to be pissed off about or not pissed off about. And there's this thing called 1, 2, 3, 4, where you can count before you speak because you might say something you don't want to say. Ha ha. And if that's something that you don't want to say is something that can be poetic, put it on paper. Get it out. Don't suppress it. When you suppress your emotion, that's when problems start to arise. That's when conflict arises. That's when anger brews. Don't suppress. The next poet, let me go back. I think there is a next. There isn't. Oh, well, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think
Stuart might have been the last one. Yes, Stuart was the last poet. Unless you want to read one of your poems, Alicia.
I think I will pass tonight.
You'll pass? Okay,
Yeah.
I think I will pass too. I'll pass on reading one of my poems, but if everybody could check out this pretty cool artwork on the screen, that is a really amazing piece of art, which I kind of think looks like steampunk art. I love steampunk. I really am a steampunk fan. This piece of artwork is by Sudry. And if you haven't checked out Keith's artwork and poetry, because he's a pretty amazing poet too, check him out. He's from Grimsby, England. And this piece that you see on the screen not too well is titled Walk the Plank. The other featured poet or artist that we had this week, we actually had a couple of them, were Neely Tanner and Shannon Mitchell. If I can go find those really quick, hopefully. Not, oh well. Let me see. No, probably. I probably wasn't smart enough to put them up on the screen this evening. No, actually, I was smart, just not thinking. There's a difference. Okay. Let me see. Shannon Mitchell. No. Anyways, we'll just scrap that. You got Keith Sudry's beautiful piece. That's the final art showcase of the night. Go check him out. He's really cool. He is. And I want to thank everybody who tuned in. And I want to thank Charles for joining us. And I want to thank all the poets for allowing me to read their absolutely marvelous pieces online. Because, I mean, wow. Powerful. Words are powerful. Words are amazing. And I appreciate all of you. And I encourage everybody to go and check out everybody that I read this evening. There was Stuart Marshall, Stuart Dann, Charles Edward York showed up and spoke with us. There was Philip Winchester, Sarah Wheatley, Taylor Newman, Michael Taylor, Michael Falls, and I think I might have missed someone, but there's a list on the screen in the description. So check them out. Go check out 3 Amigos. And then support the poets. Support the expression of emotion in poetry. Love you muchly. Bye-bye.